All right, guys. This is Ashley Williams, Legacy Farms Coffee. And I remind you, we're Legacy Farms Coffee 2010 on Instagram, Legacy Farms Coffee 200 on Facebook. And we should be streaming live to those and Legacy Farms Coffee on plain old Legacy Farms Coffee on Facebook. Been getting behind this week. We do fundraisers, and this year, an elementary school that we did a fundraiser for put in an order for 857 pounds of coffee. They also sold 293 dozen K-Cups. So it has been a crazy busy weekend, or busy week. We've called a couple of our Taekwondo buddies came and helped us do coffee, but we sold 130 something pounds of regular coffee, about 150 pounds of dark roast. We have a holiday blend and a breakfast blend. The biggest thing we sold was over 200 pounds of Jamaica Me Crazy and about 200 pounds of caramel rum crunch. Those are the biggest sellers of all, and they sell pretty well throughout the year. We always carry caramel rum crunch. But for us, we're not a huge coffee place. I think our building is 21 by 26 or something like that. And so we're pretty cramped. So this is the biggest order we've ever had. So I was sick one day. Well, last Wednesday I was sick. So I got the order on Tuesday. So I roasted last Tuesday fairly late. Then all day Wednesday, I was just sick as a dog. And so Thursday we hit it pretty hard. We try to do some Taekwondo and regular things that we normally do in life, and then and still do coffee. But I've had to skip all my Taekwondo and stuff like that this week. But last week, Eli and Julia and I did a little bit. We had Luke Weiser and Shane Wood. We do martial arts with those guys. They came in on all their free time. Shane's just 13, so he came in and worked, I think, 2 or 3 days. So it was definitely a group effort. We got done today at I think it was right at 12 o'clock, ate lunch. At 1 o'clock, we packed the trucks and we delivered at 2 o'clock for a 2:30 deadline. So it was pretty close. But thanks to everybody that came out and helped things. It made everything go so much better. We actually hired somebody that was going to start working part-time, and then she didn't show. So there you go. I was trying to look over some of the questions. Some of the questions we've gone over before. The processing of the coffee, the wash, the honey, and those things, they're online on our Facebook page, and they're also on the website legacyfarmscoffee.com. But we just want to do a quick review. Nothing huge is happening. We have started picking coffee on the farm. We often do that in December. I don't they say that if you don't pick it, it'll go bad, which that's obvious. But by picking it, a lot of people say that you'll go ahead and start that process of it starting to ripening up. So we're looking at probably the 4th or 5th of January is when we're going to start picking coffee. Traditionally, the 3rd week in January and the 2nd week in February are our 2 biggest pickings, where we have just, we're picking, the numbers sound big, but we're picking tens of thousands of pounds. We'll pick anywhere from 10,000 to the highest day of 17,000 pounds a day. But having said that, I usually divide whatever numbers, if it's 825 pounds of coffee in the cherry, it'll make 100 pounds of roasted coffee. So that sort of breaks those numbers down and makes them seem a little more realistic. I don't have a calculator in front of me. I do have my new blend of coffee that I threw something together last night. I had a bowl and I reached into 3 different buckets, and I took an equal sized portion out, threw it in a cup, and threw it in the bowl and went and ground it. And then I because I had to just quickly make me a cup of coffee, and I took the rest of it in the house. And Julia was bragging on it this morning, and so I tried it 2 more times. This being the third time, and I've got my Davy Crockett cup from the Alamo, where we went to visit our buddy Jose at Third Day. He's in Seguin, and we're real close to San Antonio, so he got us a hotel really close to San Antonio, and that got us that gave us an opportunity to go see the Alamo. I've got to grab my charger, folks. In fact, my phone's down there. No, my wife had it yesterday, but I do not know where she put it. All right, I'm working on it. All right, sorry about that, guys. My laptop would not come on, and I was at 5%. The laptop wouldn't come on. You guys can jump in the comment. I laid my phone sideways. If I'm not sideways on yours, let me know. But we got to go to talked with Jose at Third Day over in Seguin, Texas. We got to go to the Alamo. That was a fun trip for Eli. And I think we're trying to plan a trip before Christmas to Tennessee. So if there's any guys in Tennessee that are watching, we'd love to stop by and talk coffee and missions. If anybody's on that little route to Alamo, Tennessee. So we were at the Alamo in Texas, and now the next big trip is going to be Alamo, Tennessee. And that's where I was born at, was Alamo, Tennessee. But getting back to the farm, they've picked, I think maybe 8,000 or 9,000 pounds. The majority of what they pick is the higher insect damage. And because we don't spray insecticides and pesticides on the farm, are from that first picking. And so generally we take that to the mill, and that's what you guys get to drink when you go to other places and buy coffee. So this year Anna called me, and they had been calling. They'd picked coffee for 2 days, and they called the mill. And a friend of mine owns the mill, and so he'll send the truck out and pick up the coffee because none of my guys drive. So she called and said they've been looking at the coffee. Of course, they can take it out and look at it by hand. And she said they weren't seeing a lot of insect damage. So she said, we're fixing to move into a lot that's got a lot of coffee in it. So she suggested that we start saving some of that coffee. So we're going to roll the dice a little bit, and we're going to, we're picking that coffee, and they're actually drying it on our patios right now. So I've got to look at some tickets tonight. Eli told me today he wanted to go up with me 2 weeks early. So that's the plan. Haven't told Mama yet. So the plan is that he and I will go up 2 weeks early, where normally Jonathan and I go up 2 weeks early. But he graduated, and so now he's working full time. So I think he's going to take off about 3 weeks and come up and enjoy harvest with us a little bit. It'll be the first time he's ever flown into Honduras by himself. So he's going to do that. He might fly in with his mom, which is my wife, Julia. He might fly in with Julia and then leave by himself. But one of the 2 trips he's taken by himself. And knowing him, he may want to do both of them by himself just to have a little more of an adventure. So we'll have to see what's going on and see what happens. But we're it'll be a sad time on the farm that I don't have all the family there. And I know there's years that'll be coming where, Julia might not be able to make it as her mom gets older and things like that. So it's just sort of the evolution of the way things are, I guess. But without getting too sappy, we'll go to the next topic. The place is in just horrible disarray. It's dirty. All the buckets are dirty. So tomorrow my day is going to be washing buckets, moving everything, sweeping, those kinds of things, just housekeeping and getting things back to regular. I apologize to some of the customers. We actually lost Edric's order, and he called me yesterday and was saying, "Could I get him a tracking number?" And we got to looking, and there wasn't a tracking number because we hadn't bought postage because we hadn't done his order. So we'll have to make that up to him somehow. But there's been a couple of orders that have been 5-6 days later than what we normally get them out. So I apologize that, and we'll make that up to you as soon as we can, best way we can. I'm not sure. Oh, excuse me. I'm not sure how, but we will. We have a couple of dates. Some of you guys had asked about dates for coming to visit the farm. Right now, the third week in January is open, and the first week in February is open. And so those are, I think, the only two times. The last week of February and first week of March are booked. So if anybody's planning on coming to the farm this year, you guys let us know. The next time you would be able to come to the farm would be in June and July. I'll be up there quite a bit those 2 months. I'll go up after the first week in June. I'll stay there 3 weeks, come back here for 2 weeks, and I'll stay 3 weeks again in July. So we've got some mission teams coming up. So that'll be a fun time if anybody wants to come. We won't be picking or anything on the farm, but we'll be doing a lot of coffee stuff on the farm, and we'll be working out in the farm quite a bit. What we'd like to do is build a couple projects, finish up a schoolroom, things like that. We are in desperate need of about 25,000, and we'll finish the whole project up. And so we're looking for some groups that want to come and do construction that could come and help us finish those things up anytime. If there's a group that wants to come, we'll accommodate whatever your time frame is. But right now we've got a group coming in June and maybe 2 groups coming in July. I think there's chiropractors coming in June. So I'd love to have a dentist. So anybody that's watching or listening later on when we put this out on Podbean and those places, if you guys know a dentist, say something to your dentist and see if we can't get. I desperately need some more dental equipment, and I need a couple of dentists that will want to start coming up on a yearly basis. I need Sunday school groups that will support our dental clinic and things like that. But back to the farm. I know this is not the most organized podcast, but I appreciate there's been hundreds of people that have been watching some of the episodes. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate you guys sharing it. Richard, this coffee cup was from a couple of months ago when Eli and I went and spoke to, there's a preacher in Texas that wanted us to come up there. So we came up and visited with him. And so Jose at Third Day Coffee got us a hotel room. We met with the preacher. We haven't heard anything from his church. We're hoping, but while we were there, I'm from Alamo, Tennessee. I'm from a county called Crockett County, and Davy Crockett had something to do with a lot of that area. And then he moved to Texas, and that's where he died at the Alamo. So I've always wanted to go and see the Alamo. So Eli and I got to go. And seldom I buy a coffee cup unless it's just really cheap. The ones that you see way up above me, those, and let's see if I can do the ones there's a couple in the window. Those are my little tiny coffee cups, and that's my Sunday thing. I don't go to church a lot when I'm in Honduras because it's so loud and they speak so fast. I don't get a lot out of it. So generally I get up at about 6 o'clock in the morning on Sundays. That's sleeping in. And I get me a pot of coffee and a thermos, get me some of my Stroop waffles, which is made by God's own hand, I believe. And I go walking out in the farm, or sometimes I'll cheat, take the 4-wheeler, but I go into the farm, walk around, and then that's where I sort of do church at. And then later on, I'll go into town, especially when I'm by myself. But especially when Eli or Jonathan are one with me, we go into town and ramble around, hit the open markets and buy fruit. And then we go to the markets, and I specifically am looking for little coffee cups. I like the cool coffee cups. I bought some really unique ones the other day. I call them my yin and yang or whatever you call that. They're odd shaped coffee cups, and that's why I got them. Because so I got a set of black and I got a set of white, and so that is that is why that's why I call them that. So, but yes, I enjoy getting coffee cups when I go there. And it really pained me. I think I paid like $15 for this one, and I picked it up and put it down a couple of times, and then Eli talked me into to buying it. So I think Miss Julia just came out, but she's not gonna. She's printing tickets or something. But that's just sort of a quick update of what was going on. We're hoping that the second and third week of July, of January, somebody was asking when do we start picking, and that's when that's when the big picking will happen. They already picked like 700 or 800 pounds in November, and they picked, I think, 7,000 pounds so far in December. And then we'll wait about 3 weeks, so probably about middle of January they'll start doing another picking. It's a lot of it's going to depend on how many people are around to pick, and we're going up quite a bit on how much we pay to pick this year, because the workers they're leaving and coming to the States, to be honest. And so it's something you understand on one hand, but it sure makes it rough. I've sent messages back and forth to Anna, who's talking to her husband, and my friend Herbert, who owns a mill, and he owns a farm about twice the size of ours. He said a lot of his key people that worked at the mill that have left. 3 of them left and went to the States. And so it was like the guy that drove his dump truck and 2 of the guys that were drove his trucks that went out and picked up coffee and moved coffee. So that took him a long time to train those guys. And so they've gone, and so he's having to replace that. And those are the guys that take workers to the farm, and you just don't have that many people that can drive. January tends to be a foggy, rainier time. If you go back on my Facebook page, you'll see some nights when I'm standing on the patio and looking up at the mill, or at the mill looking down. It's just foggy, wet, nasty. It's just sort of miserable. February, it starts drying up a little bit. And like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the weather dictates how we process the coffee. Because somebody asked a couple of weeks ago if they made a comment, the natural is, I think, probably $1.50 a pound, $1.60 a pound more than the other coffee. So they asked, why don't I just process all my coffee natural and make that extra money? Because I had made the comment that it costs the same to grow a coffee that's a natural as it costs to grow, because it is essentially the same coffee. We just process it differently. And so somebody said, well, if you can get $1.60 a pound more, why don't you process everything that way? Well, 2 years ago, we processed no natural. And so, and the reason was the weather was so bad the whole season, we didn't want to risk it. Natural takes up 3 times more patio space. It's very delicate. Takes twice the labor to process it. It takes 2.5 times longer to dry it. And just by my estimation, it's about 10 times more likely to go bad than to be good. Last year we had 2 lots that cupped a 30. And he made a joke out of giving me a 30, because usually when it's that bad, they don't even score it. So he just gave me a 30 for a joke. So it's hard. It's a lot harder to process it, although you do get some very unique flavor profiles, and we got excellent scores with them this year. But last year, we processed more last year than we probably have the last 5 or 6 years combined. Last year, we ended up processing selected green coffee, I think about 2,300 pounds. And we were able to have weather where I processed some Sargi Moore that I bought. I don't grow that one. And I processed Ica 2, some Marsellesa that ended up turning out crazy good. It was the one that had the mango. It was M2N. That was the lot name on it. And so it was just a great year to process the natural. The weather was so good. But December and January, December is more the rainier season. January is more what I would call the winter part of it. Um, so February we'll wash pretty much everything. Right now, the coffee they're picking, they're washing it because it dries quicker and it's a lot more forgiving. The silver skin is very thin on it, and so it won't pick up mold. Versus it should start drying up quite a bit and having some better days in February. And so February we'll start shifting over and start processing as much honey process as possible, because that is the ideal. That's the ideal time to, or that's the ideal coffee. Tons of people ask for the honey, and so we have to have those two coffees. So as soon as the weather starts getting to where we can do the red honey, we start doing the red honey. And then we hope that there's enough picking still left going on in the middle part of March where we can start drying that the full natural. And if you do your research, there's two naturals, and a lot of people will just say natural, and when they do, more than likely it's a pulped natural. And a pulped natural is where that's what we call our hard fermented black honey, or our hard fermented red honey, is what most people would call a pulped natural. So pulped natural, they're going to leave it in the cherry 3 or 4 days. They're going to throw it into a tank and rehydrate it, and then they're going to turn around and wash it. And so that's what they're going to call a pulped natural. There is a difference in the color, and it will pick up a lot more fruit, but nothing is going to pick up fruit like a full natural. And a full natural means that coffee stays in that cherry until the day or two before we're ready to select it. And so it's extremely difficult because the testers that we use are the Agtronics Coffee Pro, and it will only do a honey process or a washed coffee. They don't have a tester that will test the natural, because that cherry is so thick, you can't test what that bean is. And so what we have to do is we have to go in and run it through our laboratory mill and get that cherry off of it. And then we take the bean and put it in the tester. So you're having to do that 6-7 times a day to watch what your moisture is. And so it's very time consuming. And you're talking about one person's going to spend 3 hours of their day just testing the natural. And so it's very time consuming, but man, the naturals are good when you get them and they're they turn out perfect. We've got our worst natural this year is an 86, and the best one's an 88. Yeah, Becca just said that she's really liking the M2N. It's the Marciesa. The M2N. M stands for Marciesa. The number 2 stands for the second picking of that specific crop, and the N stands for natural. The confusion comes in when you're talking about washed, which carries the letter L, which is lavado, and then the M, which would be the third digit. That's for Milado, which is honey. And so if a lot said M2N, the N is natural. If it says M, it's going to be the honey. And if it says L, it's going to be the lavado, washed. L is washed, yes. And so it is confusing, but the first 2 years I did it in English, and we had so many mix-ups because I'm trying to teach people that only speak Spanish, English, letters and stuff. And so it did not work out. This year, it'll have both. The lots will be both. And so we're going to figure out some way that it's where everybody can understand it a lot better. It's very difficult because every lot is different. And this year there was literally, I think, 67 different lots on the farm. So it gets confusing. I do that because I want to make sure there's 6 out of the 11 lots that we have are all the exact same Lempira. But traditionally, different lots will carry different. On the afternoon sun part of the farm tends to carry more caramels, and the morning sun part of the farm tends to carry stronger chocolates with the same variety, Lempira. And so from that, we just try to separate it. We keep up with weather conditions and all that, to try to see if we have something great. the reason that lot M2N, the Marciesa Natural, was such a small lot is we're really rolling the dice. I tried 2 or 3 years in a row on the Perinema doing a natural, and it was always 2 or 3 points lower than its counterparts, the honey and the washed. So I just quit. I'm throwing away good coffee. So this year was the first year that the Marciesa was in production. And so I took out, a 500 or 600, no, I guess it was about 1,000 pounds of cherry. And we went and we processed that natural, and it turned out fantastic. So this year we'll probably change that over if the weather permits. We'll probably do 7 or 8,000 pounds. I'll probably try to round it up. I'll probably try to do 8,250 pounds, and that should give me 1,000 pounds of selected, honey. I mean, natural green beans, and so that would be the hope. And so we would have a really good lot, but a lot of years, you don't get the same. You may not get that mango again. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. So there's no guarantee on what the flavor will be, but because it had such an unusual flavor that first year, there's pretty good chance, that we're hoping that there'd be a good chance that we could get mango again. Mango is not a fruit that I like a whole lot, but it's so unique that I still enjoy it. And I don't know, Richard, did you buy some of the M2N, or somebody bought all of the last that we had of the M2N? And I'm not sure if that was Richard or who it was. And then they turned around and sent me back some of it, and I still got it over here. I'm going to roast it as soon as I have time to get on my sample roaster. But whoever bought the last of it sent a pound or two. Eli was doing an inventory the other day, and he thought he saw a marking that was M2N, where maybe there might be a little, sometimes to get the bags to weigh 150 pounds, we stick, a couple pounds of something in there. And so there might be a chance that there's some more, that there might be some more in there. I'm trying to scroll through the questions. Richard said he just got a pound or two. Yeah, I can't think who it was. We were doing a podcast one night, and Barry Bazaar and Patrick Ray were on. And they, I think they're one of them's from, Patrick's from Georgia, and Barry's from Tennessee. And they made we were talking about that lot, and they said, well, we want to get some of it. And I said, well, we're running low, so, you better get on it. And they said, we'll order in the morning. Well, somebody else that was watching the podcast that night got on there and ordered every single pound I had. And so, and when I said that, the next week we were talking about it, and I said, yeah, I never even got to try it. And so the guy that ordered all of it sent me a pound or two back. He actually roasted me some and sent that, and then he sent me some green. So I really appreciated that. So, hey, Becca, if you're still on, how are y'all? Becca and them are going to start selling more some of the coffee cherry tea. And so I don't know if you guys have a website or something, or if people can order with you guys online, or Facebook, or however you do it. But you're welcome to put your information up there. I know Richard just does it for friends and family. Eli came in tonight and had some Oreo cookies that had the red center in them. So I'm fixing to try those here in a little while, now that my hiccups have gone away. But the weather is pretty bad. Richard was asking. I'm sorry, I'm on my swivel chair, and when my foot slips off, I turn. Richard was asking about the weather. June and July are some of my favorite times to be there. It's always rains in the afternoon, but it's just really, really good sunsets, and it's always nice in the morning. And I love watching the thunderstorms come over the mountains at night and stuff like that. So even though it's sort of rainy every day, it's still one of my favorite times. There are times there, because we're at 5,000, 5,200 feet, that we're in the clouds for a day or two at a time. So we have a little bit worse weather, but when the weather's good, it's really good. But I always enjoy that no matter what the weather is, we can make it into the farm on the four-wheeler, or and I'm trying to trade a guy for another four-wheeler so that when guests come, that they can take the four-wheelers out. she said, okay, they're gonna have to get some more licensing, I guess, before, and we had to do the same thing. We started out under the cottage law. Okay, and Becca put her Instagram on there. See, I think safe to sell to anybody here. They're all coffee people. So um, we sell some of the coffee cherry tea, but we've got a couple customers that we sell some bulk to. But most of I'm not sure how everybody is selling it. Some people sell as tea. I've got one customer that I'm not supposed to mention his name because it's his secret thing. So if you're out there watching, sorry. But he grinds it into a powder and puts it in his lattes. And so nobody knows why the latte tastes the way it does, but that's one of the ways he does it. And I've been meaning to try it on my espresso machine. I just haven't. I like espressos, but honestly, I go to town and they make a really good espresso. They've got like a $35,000 espresso machine, and so I'll run to town and I can get a double. They sell me a double shot of espresso in a to-go cup for $2.17. So that's cheap enough, and it's like 3 miles up the road. It is a way better espresso than what my machine makes, but I do need to try it. Yeah, they just take it with a blade grinder and they grind it till it's just a powder, and they sprinkle a certain amount of that powder in the portafilter on top of the coffee, and then they extract the coffee. Yeah, it's got that cranberry. When you eat it, if you eat what's left over afterwards, it's sort of got a consistency of prune. Uh, my wife's supposed to be helping me figure out how to send it to K-State and get the antioxidant content and see what all kinds of beneficial things that are in it. But I've heard it people say as much as 6 times the antioxidants that blueberries have, but I don't have any evidence of it. And before we put that online, I want to see exactly what it is, and I want to know what the caffeine content is, because I don't believe it to be much. But like last month when I was in Honduras, Anna and I were having to cup some coffees. I mean, some teas. And at the end of the day, we probably went through 20 or 22 teas. At the end of the day, I was pretty wound up. So I know, and in the cupping of the tea, we don't do the slurp with the little cupping spoons and all. We just drink it. And so we probably consume a lot more than when we do. We usually try to do our cuppings at about 40, cuppings a day with the coffee. But the tea, I can definitely tell there's caffeine in it, but I don't know how much. And I don't know. We've tried grinding it to a powder and putting it in brownies and bread, and it works really well for those things. But it is really overpowering. The fruit taste in it will overpower brownies. It doesn't go that well with chocolate. It definitely spices up a loaf of bread, stuff like that. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure, and I'm not 100% sure what all antioxidants do for your body. So before we start marketing real heavy, what benefits are, I want to see what K-State says, and they do a lot of product testing for coffee. Actually, our soil samples in Honduras go to K-State, which is Kansas State here in Kansas. I think it's Manhattan is the name of the city. Yeah, Becca's saying that she thinks is about a third. I've heard, 20, 25%. So it's in somewhere in that neck of the woods, because the bean draws its caffeine from that cherry. So I would assume that's pretty close to what what it is. I can't imagine it's got as much as a cup of coffee, but I don't know. And I'd like to drive up there and take it and just see if it matters how long you extract it, or if you pressurize it with like a French press versus something else. Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to try some in my AeroPress, and I'm going to try some in the French press and see if I can tell any difference. But the biggest problem is time, having time to do all that. So that's but as soon as I do, I've got Becca, I've got you scheduled. I think 32 ounces I put on the list a little while ago. I put Coronado, 32 ounces of cream. Uh, So we'll ship you out some tea tomorrow, and then Julia will figure out some kind of how to pay for it later. She does all that stuff. Yeah, and I don't know, like, yeah, we try to cover our bases and we try to be as beneficial to the customer as we can with, with all the information that we can get for them. I have no idea what they charge to do all that, but I have a coffee that's a Robusta, and as soon as we start picking it this year, I'm going to send it in and a couple of our. I'm going to send the Perinema, the Marciesa, and the Lempira, which will become within the next 3 years will be our three main coffees, along with that Robusta, which I'm planting about 500 plants of that this year, and then next year I'll plant 3,000. So we're wanting to find out exactly what the caffeine content of that Robusta is, because you can definitely tell when you drink it. You can definitely tell it's packed full of caffeine. Because I haven't slept more than like 4 hours a night in the last week. I've been roasting like crazy. I've roasted 1,500 pounds of coffee in the last 10 days. So it's just been crazy, how much with the fundraisers, how much coffee has been going out this week. But we delivered that today. I just want to say I hate K-Cups. Next year, we're either not going to do K-Cups or we're going to buy a K-Cup machine. One of the Wayfill machines died on us. And God bless Amazon, but it's still going to take them 3 days to get us a machine, and that was too late. So we just started filling cups by hand. So I think it was 3,120 cups that we filled. It was 293 dozen K cups we filled by hand. So yeah, that takes a lot. I can do about 26 dozen an hour by hand. I got them right here, Richard. These are called iFill, and it's just a little bitty cup. It's got a super sticky seal right through here. And so I put about 14.5 grams of coffee in it. And I tap it all around, and then you just snap that seal shut and she's ready to go. It's biodegradable, or no, it's not. No, it's not. It's recyclable, which a lot of things are, but may or may not actually get recycled. I don't have a lot of faith in that, but they're about 26 cents each. When we bought, I think 4 cases just came in. There's 1,420 K cups in a case. It's a company called iFill, which I hate them, but because we've been ordering from them for about 2 years. But it's when you're doing it in the coffee business, it's all you can do to remember half the stuff you got to do every day. And so I ordered a case or cases of 1,420 K cups. And so when you start getting low, you reorder, and you get low, you reorder. You're very, and everything goes in little. I've got little shelves back here made that are just tall enough for a dozen K cups, and we just stuff the shelves full. And I got a box where we keep the boxes that the K cups go in. Well, last year, all of a sudden, they started sending us K cups, the boxes for the K cups. They were 18 count boxes. Well, we sell them online a dozen at a time. And so now all of a sudden we're having to order these little air puffy things that you put breakable stuff in to put in that box, because we're only putting 12 in there. So then we tried to change our website to sell a dozen and a half at a time to accommodate the boxes they sent us. And so once we started doing that, then the first thing that happened was shipping. So in what's considered a shoebox with the post office, there's one we call a shoebox. I could put four of the dozen boxes in there, but the 18 count boxes, I couldn't put any in. So then it messed up our shipping structure. And so now we're having to find boxes that will handle the boxes of K-Cups that we're shipping. And so they said, well, we can't get 12, so we're sending you 18s. And so it's like, well, tough luck. So then we've got these hundreds of boxes of 18 count boxes. So I got online and found some boxes, but they're to accommodate the 12. And so we just have cases full of the 18s laying around. But this year, I just couldn't find boxes. And so then I got to doing all the math. Well, they send you 100 boxes for every case of 1,420 K-Cups. Well, that only is good for 1,200 K-Cups. So, and I called them and I said, well, what are we supposed to be doing with the extra 200 and something K-Cups? And like, well, I said, why don't you send us enough boxes for all of our K-Cups? He's like, well, most people drink a lot of them and do quality control. And I'm like, nobody does 220 K-Cups for quality control. And it's like, well, we sell the boxes. They're $1 a piece extra. And so I was like, well, in what world do you sell 1,420 K-Cups and you only sell the guy the capacity for 1,200, the boxes, and then you try to sell him the extra boxes? That just seemed to me like it was insanity. And so we're desperately looking for another company that'll do the same, that we could buy from other than iFeel. But if you guys ever put in an order and you want a couple of dozen of those little cups, I personally use and I have an iPod machine so that we can test K-Cup machine, so that I can sort of test them. And that's how we come up with the dark roast has a different weight than the flavored, and then it has a different weight than the natural coffees. And so I've got a K-Cup machine here. I just went to Walmart and bought me some of the little baskets, and I put my coffee in those baskets. But from what we've looked at, there's a couple companies out there. One of them is it might be Buckeye, and I think it's in Arizona. And I don't know anything about the company, but they make one that fills it, 4 cups at a time, and then it comes out. You throw 4 lids on, and then there's a thing where you seal the 4 lids. Doesn't seem very fast, and the machine's like $2,200. The next size up that I found is like $17,000, and it's supposed to do something like 60 or 70 dozen an hour, which is pretty quick if it's doing automated. But it will fill the K-Cup, put a top on it, and seal the K-Cup. And it's supposedly about less than a dime a pop for per K-Cup, where we're at 26 cents right now, or something like that. If you guys want to know exactly what they cost, I can ask Julia. But I think it's 26 cents a piece is what the K-Cups cost us. But if you guys ever put an order in and want me to send you a dozen K-Cups, I'll stick them in there and y'all can try them and see how you like them before you buy them. I'll just give them to you. So just let me know. Becca, I've got some stuff going out to you tomorrow. If you haven't tried the iFeel, let me know. I'll lay some on top of your ticket. If you want them, I'll send them to you and you can give them a try. Do you know, Richard, do you know what company had the foil seal tops? It was hard to keep the seal lined up. Yeah, the one I saw, it had like a heat sealer that you put on top of it. But I didn't really watch the video well enough. I didn't think it was what was going to suit us. If my coffee's ground, which I've got those, they're called EK43s. It's the first 2 grinders. There's a black one there and a gold one there, and they'll crank out. It's a lot slower when I'm grinding K-Cups, but I think it'll do 27 pounds every 9 minutes, so about 3 pounds a minute. It'll grind it for K-Cups. And so I can grind it pretty quick. And then I can do, if I'm just super pumped and going good, I can do close to 30 dozen an hour by hand, without using anything. I just start. I know about how much to put in. I weigh the first 20 or 30, and once I get my rhythm going, then I weigh about every 10 or 15. I'll weigh one, and can roll on pretty quick. And then once I get a few hundred K cups done, Julia will come in and start packing them in boxes, and so it goes pretty quick. And we don't sell that many. Uh, I think I'm actually going to raise the price a little bit to maybe hopefully slow the sales down a little bit, not to be snotty or anything. But when we did this big order we just did, normally we do it ourselves. They're our biggest fundraiser group. And so 2 years ago, they did 460 pounds. And last year, plus I don't know how many K cups, last year they did 777 pounds. And I don't remember how many K cups, but it was over 3,000 K cups. And then this year they did 857 pounds. Most of that was ground, and it was 7 different varieties. Yeah, 7 different options. And so each one of those options, like the canal washed, ground, whole bean, or K cups. So it just took a long time to do all that. And 3 of the options were flavored, 2 of the options were blends. And so it took an incredible amount of time. So when I have to get people in here at 15 and 20 bucks an hour, if a guy can only do 15 dozen an hour, well, he just added $1 to the price of every box of K cups, and so it's hard to keep doing that. Next year we won't be able to do it unless we have the machine. And our second problem is we're at that sort of awkward stage where we're not big enough to be making profit yet. We're eating, and my kids have shoes, but we don't have enough money where I want to go to the bank and say I want to build a new place. Although I'm on the dry erase board, wherever that is, yeah, back there, and I've drawn out what my new building's going to be. I've been making modifications where the tables will be, where the bathroom's going to be. So I'm thinking of it, and what we're going to probably do is put 3 40-foot shipping containers together, and then build I want a 10-foot to 12-foot tall roof on it, so that we've got storage upstairs. And then my goal would be to have a full porch along the front of it, so a 40-foot long porch with tables out there for the 2 seasons in Kansas that you could stay out there, and then have 2 to 3 tables inside where we could, and we would move that to the main road. We have a tiny bit of property on the main road, and so the idea would be to have a little mini coffee shop. And but you're looking at to get my truck ready. If we did that, we would go ahead and make the leap. I've got I think it's a 2014. It's called an NPR. It's a box truck made by Isuzu. I would convert that into a mobile coffee shop, and then we would, if we could build this out with the containers, the 3 containers delivered are like 10 grand, and that's not that much, but that's a very small part of what all would have to happen to get everything up and running, license and all that good stuff. The land would have to be rezoned for commercial, I think, a whole lot more to it. But I think, you're talking about $100,000 to $120,000 to get all that done, and the truck. And then I would have the space that you would need to do, because we could have had more workers in this week, but the reason we didn't is because we didn't have space for everybody to sit. And so I'm roasting till 1:30 in the morning, just because when you're roasting, you've got a batch of, you're putting 25 pounds in and you're getting, 21.8 out, something like that, depending on the roast level. And so I'm running back and forth, filling these big white buckets, with coffee. And so you can't do that and have 3 or 4 people in here working all at the same time. and with customers coming in. So all the chaos we had, we still got walk-in customers doing pickup orders. They ordered online. Julia's trying to do shipping every day to ship coffee out. And then we're trying to wait on customers that walk through the door and pack an 857-pound coffee order and grind the order and seal the bags and, all those things all at the same time. So it's, we're really small. And I'll try to put online once I get everything cleaned up this week, really how small. I'll do like a panoramic shot of the whole building. We're pretty small. And then at one point we had 5 people working in here a couple days this week, and it just makes it, it's just hard to get around. We've had to buy smaller tables and bigger tables in according to what you do. And so we had one table set up and it had the sealer with the conveyor belt on it. And it had 2 weigh-fill machines on it. And so there was a person on each end of the table with a weigh-fill machine, and they would put their bags to the center of the table, and then somebody else would seal the bags, and then somebody else separated because they were both working on different coffees. So yeah, it was just a lot of organizing, and as soon as 1 tub or 2 tubs were full, we had to take them out of the building because we didn't have enough room to store them. And so we were putting tubs in the house and the shipping container, So I think today is all that I could do to get that 1 order in both pickups. And everything was in big plastic 27-gallon tubs. So we put it in and we had to deliver it. So it's, we really could use another building, but all of that's dependent on marketing and stuff like that. So if you know somebody that's good at marketing, that is my biggest struggle. We've got good coffee. We've got good people on the farm. We have a good story. We've got to get the word out, and that's what I don't know how to do. I've tried. I try to post fairly often on Instagram and all of that, and I've done that very little this week just because I haven't even been sleeping much this week. But trying to organize all that and do my roasting and all the other stuff that you have to do. I haven't posted much this week, but normally I do a half a dozen posts every week, even if it's something little or big. What I need is you up here, Becca, for a week, and because you've got some fantastic posts on your that I see you do. And so, but no, I've been trying real hard to organize my pictures and things like that. And so we've been talking to a couple of influencers and things like that to maybe help us with some of that. The one we're talking to now has like a 3-month program, and they said, you're not going to expect big results for 3 months. And so we're going to start that up probably right before Christmas. And he recommended waiting rather than starting that day because it's an unusual way that they do their thing. But he said it's going to be 3 months before everything sort of, you build up to here and then that builds up to here. And I don't want anything blowing up while I'm in Honduras. So if I had another 850-pound order while I'm in Honduras picking coffee, we'd be in trouble. I don't have anybody that can roast, like I can roast here. And not bragging, but I think I know my coffee probably better than most people do. And I roast, I have my little profiles and things. My son, Jonathan, does help me roast, but we've got all of our equipment set up where we can do bigger jobs. We just need to, and the fundraisers you make very little money on. So, but I don't want anything like to get real big and really blow up while I'm in Honduras. Because already I'm planning on coming back for 5 or 6 days in the middle of harvest, just because I'm going to have to roast. And the guy that used to roast for us invented some kind of brew method and moved off to another state. We're going to start producing it. And so he sold his roasting company and all of his contracts, and he left. And so the big company's not going to roast for anybody else. So I don't have a roaster right now. So Jonathan will roast before he comes to Honduras, and he'll roast when he gets back. But while he's there, I'll leave for 5 days, and I'll come here and roast just as hard as I can for 3 days, and then head back to the farm again. But No, Richard, Becca, who all else? There's quite a few people watching tonight. If you guys want to come out to the farm, and we would love to have you guys out at the farm. Uh, it's not super expensive if you watch your tickets and figure out a good time to come. The most expensive part is getting to and from the airport. You know, if I can't come and get you during harvest, we have to have a taxi, which I know the guy that drives the taxi. Um, but it doesn't cost much to eat. It doesn't cost much to be there. I'm sure not going to charge you for the apartment or anything like that. It's always been where all of our customers come for, you know, for free. Uh, so we, you know, make it as cheap as possible. But it's a coffee guru's almost a dream trip. Hey, Becca, you guys can leave the kids at home. They'll be fine for 5 or 6 days. You and John can come on out. And Richard, I don't know if you're married, single, dating, whatever you're doing, but you could bring the family with you. The station identifier is XPL, X-Ray Paul Lincoln. It'll either say Tegucigalpa or it'll say Comayagua, but XPL is the station identifier. And from California, and there's a lot of different places from California that you can fly straight into Honduras. But Richard, where are you located? Are you in Texas? I forget. I want to say Georgia or Texas, but maybe I'm wrong. Happily married. If you bring her out there, you'll be even more happily married. And we'll even find John likes to climb stuff. They have the largest zip line in South and Central America. Is about 20 minutes from our house. So, and it was built by some company out of South America. So or out of Italy, I think, which is not South America. And it's supposed to be this massive, massive zip line. It's something like 300 yards long. And you're at one point, you're over 100 yards high when you're going down it. Arkansas, okay. Well, you're close enough to Tennessee. Yeah. No, I mean, fly to Little Rock or Memphis. You know, there's some pretty good flights. I always fly United, but I think everybody has about the same. The Spirit may actually fly out of California, Becca. I'm not sure. Spirit sucks as an airline, but as far as their safety record, it's good, and the flights are dirt cheap. And when you come, you don't need to bring a lot of stuff. As long as you bring 1 to 2 boxes of Ashley's favorite stroopwafels. I don't have a favorite brand, just stroopwafels. And a Bart's root beer. Those are only requirements. If you have one of those 2 things, when I see you at the airport, I'll bring you to the farm. Otherwise, I can't guarantee anything. But it's a fun trip. Going to Honduras never gets old. I get crap sometimes in customs and security, and you know, they lose a bag for a day or your fly bag. There's there's some little stuff that happens. But man, it's home. As somebody that was doing an interview, we went to Joplin, and Eli and I did a 5-hour podcast. And the guy was asking Eli, because we had just come back from Honduras, and he said, "Well, how's it feel being home again?" And this was a couple of years ago, and Eli's like, "Well, no, my home is in Honduras," because Eli lived more than half his life in Honduras. And so he said, "No, my home's in Honduras." He said, "Here we live in Grammy's house, or in the States." And so we live in the childhood home of my wife. Her family's been here since they built the house in 1900. So her mom built a mother-in-law house or mother-in-law apartment onto the house. And so we live in the main house now. A stroopwafel, they're wafers. I said, yes, they're wafers. And it's big and fat. And you actually put it on top of your coffee cup, and it starts to soften it. I eat a half of one a day in the mornings with my coffee, and sometimes I'll cut that half into 3 pieces. But I really like them. I got them one time I got bumped up to first class, and so ever since then, I found a place where I can order them. One of my customers that buys, my biggest customer for green coffee, he sells them, and I get them off Amazon sometime. And the other night I came home and my wife had bought me a box because I'm getting old and I'm trying to watch my sugar. So I've quit buying them for myself. So Julia will buy them for me sometimes. Trying to look through some of the questions. There are definitely some crazy drivers, but one of the deal I worked out with the taxi driver was I'll pay you whatever you ask, but you're gonna drive exactly the way I tell you to drive. The other day, the taxi driver, the brakes went out on my Toyota and had them fixed, and the guy, I lost some confidence in him because he fixed them and then he quit. He said, "From now on, you'll have to call somebody else. I don't want to come out here. It's too far for me to drive." And so when this breaks, I sort of lost confidence. So I didn't drive my car to the airport. So I called a taxi and he wasn't answering. So the preacher said, "Well, I'll come get you." And so I'm like, okay. That guy drove so fast. And I just grabbed his arm and said, "Listen, you got to slow down." And he's like, "Oh, the seatbelts will protect us." And I'm like, "You're insane. You've been driving a total of 3 months out of your entire life, and we're literally running 80 miles an hour down this road." And the reason I'm in Honduras is because there were so many landslides. And he's got his little baby daughter unbuckled, not in a child seat, just sitting in the back seat playing with the toy. His year-old daughter. His wife is in the back seat. They don't buckle up because the law says you only have to buckle up if you're in the front. And so I'm like, man, if we have a wreck, your family is dead at 80 miles an hour on the side of the mountain. And he just would not slow down. So no, I don't put up with them driving crazy. They can drive how they want, but when I get in the car, I'm either going to drive because it took him when I drove with Alexander. It's Alexander. I love him. He took like a full 20 minutes longer than it takes me to get to the airport. I was relaxed. I fell asleep a couple times. Um, he drives slow and cautious, and I like that because there's too many maniacs out there trying to drive as fast as humanly possible. And you can't drive 5 miles down those roads without seeing like a little. They put up these little things in memory of their family. It'll be a cross or flowers where somebody's went off the hill and killed them. And we were driving the airport one day, and there was a whole bunch of cars parked on the side of the road, and they were all looking over the side. And I said, well, somebody took a pee break or they're just taking a break from driving. When we came back, there was a big wrecker, and they were pulling a bus over the top. And so that bus had went off the side of the hill. And you just don't walk away from buses because nobody rides, wears the seatbelt in a bus. And those giant windows, everybody comes out of the bus. As soon as it rolls one time, it's just flinging people out. And so yeah, the next day it was like 7 or 8 people died, and everybody else in the hospital, stuff like that. So I don't play around with that. There's enough chance in life without letting somebody that's crazy drive you around. So when people come out, I don't worry so much about, like, if I had the taxi pick you up, they've got 2 places that they're going to stop for like 3 minutes. They're just going to pull off. There's a safe spot. They're going to pull off. And if you want to get out, stretch your legs or just get a drink of water or, just to stop for a minute, and then they'll start on, because you just got off of 4 or 5 hours of flying and dealing with airports. So when you get picked up, there's a fresh pizza. There's some bottled water, and there's some Pepsis all in a little cooler that we have there. And so they're going to make sure that we take care of everybody. And if I can, I do everything I can to pick the people up myself. Even when there's a bus load comes in, I'll go and meet the bus, and everybody's going to get ice cold water, and it makes a big difference because I don't enjoy driving with other people, and I'm not a person that gets car sick. But the only times I've ever gotten car sick were in Honduras when other people were driving. And I want it to be a fun trip. And so you're not going to have fun if you're throwing up. And so I never do. So we're going to do everything. We'll make sure we get to go to town, do some tourist stuff. We've got about 8 restaurants that we recommend to try to, go to a couple of them that are just fun. And the people that work there are fun. We want to have a good time if we go. Well, I told Eli that I would go in before he went to bed tonight. He's been helping me all week, so tomorrow he has to start school again. We do homeschool, so I sort of checked him out. Yeah, Becca, it'd be awesome if you guys can come. And if people are even can come when we're not there. There's been a couple times where it didn't work out. I love being there because I feel like it's a little bit better trip. I sort of know where I'm going and what I'm doing. But yeah, watch tickets, and it's according to what region you're flying from. Sometimes tickets are different prices, and let me know if you find some months that might work for you. And I'll, a lot of times I can move one of my trips around and come and make sure that we try to be there. But we'll always do a couple of, a VBS, do a kids fun day, and we'll go out and try to do some kind of home repair, and then hopefully we can pair you guys up with somebody next year, or even pair you up. We need to talk about pairing you up with Anna, and maybe put you with some of her coffee where you're buying coffee directly from Anna. I don't want to get rid of a customer, but I'd love to see somebody else. Anna's production is going up, and so I'd like to get somebody that's growing their company to grow with Anna's farm and work directly with her. And I think if you ever met Anna, you would love her. She's in most of my pictures when you start looking on Facebook, or I can send you some just pictures of me and Anna. There's a couple of pictures of her and Julia that were cupping tea. They were both wearing an apron, and they were cupping tea in our lab about a year ago on Facebook. But she's a great lady, has a great family. Her husband takes her to the airport sometimes. But they're a good family. And the goal is always, as I grow and I'm selling more of my coffee roasted, and I'm helping some of these guys buy farms and then plant the farms. And so the goal is to pair you up with somebody as your company grows. Anna could be one of your signature coffees, that you could sell. You'd be one of the only 2 places in the United States that could buy coffee from Anna, And so, yeah, we love to have all you guys out there. Yeah, and Richard, sometime if you guys ever wanted to come out, we'd be glad to have you and your wife or anybody wants to come out. We're actually building a classroom that's going to double as a small little room. Now, Becca, do you speak Spanish? But yeah, within the next, by the end of harvest, we'll have a second apartment, and then once we finish the second apartment, we'll finish out the road, and there'll be a road that links the 2 apartments and links our house and all together, so you can literally drive from your apartment on a 4-wheeler all the way down to the house, because the second apartment is up on the top near the road, so it's the only place we had to where we could build one building, make it a kid's classroom, and make it an apartment. But yeah, I'd love to have Anna. A couple of weeks ago, I did I don't know, Becca, if you saw it or if you saw it, Richard, I interviewed Pedro, and I sort of did the translating myself. Well, cool. That would be perfect. Why don't you even go a step further and make a list of questions to ask Anna, and then I think that they can do a translating subtitle where you could do that, and and interview her. And she's got 3 kids. She's got a great husband that doesn't really like me that much, but he's yeah. Pedro is a great guy. I love Pedro. Right now, he's the guard on the farm. The other night we were messing with him because I didn't realize that the security system had where I could talk. And so I know where he sleeps at, but I couldn't see him. And I started saying, Pedro. So I don't know if he heard me or not. I'll have to ask him when I get there in a couple of weeks. But I was trying to talk to him through the video camera. But he guards at night, and then he gets up at 5, goes home, takes a shower, gets breakfast, and then comes back at 7. And so he actually works on the farm quite a bit. and he'll have his wife come out and stay sometimes. Have his son come and stay sometimes, and they got bathrooms and shower, that they use, and so just so he's not away from his family so much. And he makes, he'll make money while he's sleeping if he guards, and so he enjoys that extra money. But I want to start doing a podcast where some more videos where I interview some of the guys, and so yeah, if Anna, Becca, if you wanted to try to interview Anna, as soon as I get there in January, we'll start working out a date where I can get her a time where it works with you, and we'll get that taken care of. No, that'd be great. And we might even rope you into interviewing if we can. I'd like for it to be able to do both, subtitles like in English, so that we could put it out there and maybe even get you to. I want to interview Santiago. That's Pedro's brother. Santiago's coffee is coming to the States this year, and so I'd like to be able to. I need to find somebody. Bill is buying up a lot of Santiago's, but it's yet to be seen how much he produces this year. So it might. But yeah, I've got a couple guys I'd love to interview that way, and I've got a pretty good Spanish, but mine is not. The native Spanish is always better than my Spanish always. Well, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up because I promised Eli I'd go in and holler at him for a few minutes before we went to bed. But I will. I appreciate y'all being on. I appreciate all the questions. There's a couple questions, guys, I wasn't able to get to tonight, and I will. I'll write them down and I'll get to them next week. We will. I'll go ahead and post hopefully before I go to bed when the next podcast will be. And but yeah, we'll do it again soon. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you sharing this with friends, family, stuff like that, and helping us grow. Thanks for all the good questions, and we'll see you all again soon.